This is Dave Reynolds, and welcome to next edition of Amazing Guitars Friday. And I'm sitting here with my buddy Mason Tolf, who's going to talk to us a little bit about his Schecter guitars. And I, quite frankly, don't know a lot about the Schecter guitars, so I'm excited to hear what Mason has to tell us. And I have done a little research, like I usually do, to find out as much as I can. But so that's what we're going to do today, talk about the Schecter guitars. So if you could fill us in a little bit, Mason, on, do you know anything about the history of the company?
Yeah, they started in 1976, pretty much as a parts company, and what they would do is mostly Fender, Stratocaster, Telecasters. They just do replacement parts. If you want to hot rod it, they had everything you needed. And so they got to a point where they eventually had all the stuff to just make their own guitar.
Nice.
And so, yeah, one of the first guitars, fully Schecter guitars they made was for Pete Townsend. And pretty much that's kind of what started the company. So in the 80s, they started making full-fledged guitars. You know, still doing the Stratocaster T-shapes and whatnot.
And they were still in California at that time.
Yeah.
Burbank, Van Nuys kind of area of the valley.
Well, then in the 80s, they moved to Dallas. The company got bigger, and so David Schecter sold it to a company in Dallas, and they kept on making guitars. And then in the 90s, they were bought out again. And the new president in '98 started the Diamond series, which is what these two guitars are from. And they're basically just mid-price guitars, really good quality. Diamond series are usually made in South Korea, with the exception of Indonesia. And yeah, they're just really good stock guitars.
And now, you were telling me before, you're from Texas, and you lived not far from Dallas, but that's not what... You didn't know, I mean, you didn't buy the guitar because they were in Dallas.
No, I pretty much found out about them from a friend. I'd never heard of them before that. Because, well, I usually play metal, and your quintessential factory metal guitars are going to be Ibanez, Jackson, or Dean. And I like to think of them as like cars, you know. Ibanez and Jackson are kind of like the sports cars and whatnot, just how the way they feel and the way they play. And I looked at Schecter and I just thought, you know, that's a muscle car right there.
So this isn't a guitar that you just stumbled on. You tried all those guitars. I mean, you've played a bunch of different guitars, and you love this Schecter. What kind of things do you like about it? The pickup configuration, and this is interesting, the strings that go straight through the body there.
Yeah, I do love the string through body, the tune-o-matic bridge, which is just really easy to set up, and it takes less than 5 minutes to restring it, even though it is a 7-string. And I mean, just this one's all stock, and it came with EMGs, which I really love, really active, really crunchy, and a lot of good headroom. This one has a EMG 81 in the bridge and a 85 in the neck, and they round out really nicely. Also, you know, direct from the factory, it came with Grover tuners, which I really liked. Really solid tuners.
Do you have any issues with, no issues with tuning or anything, right? And what different tunings do you put on this guitar besides standard?
I basically put it in like drop A, or I'll drop everything down another half step to A flat. That's where it's really comfortable. The mahogany body just does wonders for low tuned instruments. And so basically, you know, I have standard tuning for my first 6 strings, and then I just drop, that's supposed to be B, standard, if it was a standard it'd be B. I just drop it down a step, so it's A, so I get this pretty octave here. And it plays just like a 6-string that's drop tuned. So.
And who are you, who are the guys that you look up to that might be playing Schecter guitars?
Well, that would
That
be,
you listen to?
like Keith Merrow. He's got his own line of Schecters, and Jeff Loomis, who just really shreds. And if you ever look at a Schecter in the shop, you might notice the neck. It seems a little bulky.
Oh yeah.
It is a thin C shape, and you know, it being a 7, you'd be really worried about it. But until you play it, it's actually really comfortable, and definitely no strain there. And I like it because if I'm doing tap stuff, I really want a thicker neck to kind of anchor my thumb on, and it does.
Is that where the muscle car thing comes in? You were talking about that.
Yeah, that's more of like the body. Since it's mahogany,
okay.
it's a bit heavy, but just the aesthetic of the arched top The paint job is black with metallic flakes in it, and it just screams, classic American muscle cars. It just kind of has that kind of personality.
All right. Well, can you play a little bit of that one for us? Fire us up here on the. Mason's playing through a Line 6 Pod HD 500. We have that plugged into the DT25 here. Nice. So that gets a good fat sound without getting any string buzz or anything. It's set up
Yeah, and
really well there, and has a real light tension, I would imagine, so that you can get that tapping in there.
And I just took it from Texas. I had it in the back of my car, and that car was being towed, and it was a pretty bumpy road from Texas to North Carolina. Pulled it out of its case. It was virtually in tune. The 4 years I've had it, I haven't had to adjust the truss rod at all. Just intonation once, and I really haven't had to mess with anything.
That's great. So are you staying up on what they're doing with their new guitars, the new line?
Yeah,
they're coming out in 2017, 18?
They're definitely diversifying. They have a semi-hollow guitar, came out in 2017.
I watched the video, is that the 335 model?
Yeah. And it's cool because it's got the flame maple top and whatnot, so it's still kind of edgy, but it's going a little more classic.
Yeah, it sounded great. What was the name of the guys that we watched?
That was Chapman and
The guys
I forget
from
the other guys'
from
name.
England. But maybe I'll throw it up at the end on my ending credits of these guys that we watched. They're really entertaining, and they did a lot of stuff with the guitar. They also took a Schecter guitar, this video that we watched. I'll put a link up on it where they changed out the pickups 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
What was the last pickups?
Bare knuckle.
Bare knuckles pickups in a Schecter. Yeah, it sounded great.
Yeah, bare knuckles are great because you get more bite for your tone.
Definitely made a huge difference. That was my favorite of the 3. So let's take a look at this guitar. What's this Schecter? What can you tell me about this one? Was this something? Which one did you buy first?
I bought this one first.
Okay, and then why did you buy this one?
Well, I was at a guitar shop, and the one in my hometown actually had that guitar, but it was a left-hand model. And I just loved the paint job on it, but I couldn't buy it because I'm not left-handed.
Oh, but it's only has 6 strings.
It is 6 strings.
Why is that?
I was in a band at a time where I needed a solid gigging instrument that had 6 strings on it, and so yeah, I found that one, and it had the paint job that I loved. Basically, it was I bought it based on the look of it, the aesthetic of it was great, and then I took it home and loved the way it played. Everything is stock except for the JB model pickup I put in it, and it was that's a 2003 Schecter 006 Deluxe, so it is part of the Diamond series.
It's got a much narrower neck, I guess, than that one. I mean, of course, it's a 6 string, I understand, but still doesn't feel like anywhere close to the.
It's very comfortable to play. Still has the thin C neck profile. The radius is actually 16-inch radius on it, so it's a little flat, which is what I prefer. A lot of metal guys play flat necks.
Yeah, I think I was recognizing that for sure. It doesn't feel as floppy, I don't think, as that one, is it? Or is it about
probably
the
because that's a standard, and it's also got a set of string strings on it. You got a 56 on top, 9 to 56.
And it's got, the body shape is kind of similar to that guitar, isn't it?
Yeah, I love the double cutaways.
Yeah.
They just took a guitar that looks super metal and like rounded out the tops, and it almost looks, I don't know, it's unique.
Yeah.
I can't really place the label on it. It's
nice.
pretty special.
So, do you have anything else to say about Schecter guitars? So we know that they started in Burbank or Van Nuys, like in the Valley in California in the 70s, building replacement parts. Then they went into the guitar making business, but they were really high end, weren't they? I mean, like expensive.
They were
boutique.
pretty limited dealers too.
Yeah. Then they went to Texas, and then in the 90s they started making guitars that were more affordable, a broader line. But I also was reading that they used a lot of their replacement parts stock. Maybe, I don't know, that's not what the article said, but that's what it seemed like to me, that they were putting different parts of different guitars together to sell. In other words, all the guitars didn't have the same exact hardware
Yeah.
and wood or neck configuration as you would expect, like in a Fender Telecaster would be the same every time.
Basically, the models, they're named after the body. That's the only thing that's, the body shape.
Okay.
And then they'll kind of switch out the woods for runs. And basically, they have a lot of rosewood necks that I've noticed. Not much variation there. But, like, that would be an Omen 6 body. But since it's a 006 Deluxe, they rounded out the horns on it.
Okay.
And so that's what kind of set it apart from the Omen line, even though you could buy an Omen and it would probably sound just like that.
So there's just little variations.
Yeah, there's little tweaks.
Right. And different, well that's cool. And I also saw that they're coming out with amplifiers. I don't know anything about the amps.
High gain amps.
High gain.
I haven't had the opportunity to try one.
Right.
But definitely if I see one, it'll be the first amp I try.
Yeah.
They're pretty mean looking.
Cool. Yeah. We'll have to check that out. So, excellent. And so you would be a Schecter like person, for your style of music. You'd be interested in getting more of those style guitars.
Certainly.
Nice.
They're what I like for
then,
detuned instruments. And as far as the quality, I mean, it's a mid-price guitar. Intermediate guitar players would be going for this kind of price model. And what you get is a really good guitar. You can gig with this. I've dropped this one a number of times. There's really no blemishes on it. Holds up really well. Like I said, I barely had to set it up. Once the factory's done with them, they send them to Schecter Guitars in America, and they set it up. So they have really good quality control.
nice. Yeah, it sounds like if you drove across the country, that thing it's still in tune. So that just sounds like an all-around great guitar, especially for metal. But I've played it, and my kind of music is not metal, but it's still. Yeah, it has a good feel to it.
And it's got really good clean tones. Like I would have to give EMG a lot of credit. They do a lot of really versatile pickups, but also the guitar. Since it's such a big piece of mahogany, that has a lot to do with it, and so it'll just give out these kind of warm tones. And it's really smooth, rounded out
Right.
kind of tone.
So I know because you like to do things with a little bit of reverb and echo. Do you have any patches like that of your rhythm thing set up?
I do have a rhythm
Let's
patch.
hear that.
That's a distortion one.
Oh, okay.
But basically, whenever I go for distortion, it's somewhat high gain but tamed, so that as soon as you're done hitting it, it stops.
Oh, nice. Let's hear a little bit of that. That's killer. So anyway, that's Schecter Guitars, and thanks for coming, Mason. Is there anything else you want to say about the guitars, or I think we pretty much covered a little bit about the company, a little bit about the different series of guitars, and you can of course go online and find out a lot more information. And anyway, that's it for this week, and we'll jam a little bit on the way out. And have an excellent Friday, and see you soon.